I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Beacon Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Larry Cohen.
Here.
Betsy Dennis.
Here.
Jennifer Edge.
Excused.
Christine Galbo.
Here.
Frank Garda.
Believed to be late.
Georgia Patchen.
Here.
Mary Beth Stevens.
Here.
Bill Zaub.
You will be late as well?
Melissa Thompson.
I am here. Would you like to review the fire exit?
I'd be delighted. Fire exits are to the rear of the LGI. Please don't hesitate to follow the board out in case of emergency.
And would you like to welcome the workshop?
Welcome, everyone, to our March 4th meeting of the Board of Education. We typically start off with the Bill Zaub singing the Star Spangled Banner. Right on time. Our wonderful Assistant Superintendent for Business, Anne Marie Corderoni, has agreed this evening to continue on with the budget process and speak with us about this thing called the tax cap.
Thank you. I hope everyone can see. I also have handouts for the board. So you have it?
I'm good.
So if anybody needs it, you have it. Great. Okay. So I'm going to try to simply explain. We had an explanation last year with it being the first year of the cap. This year was a little different, a little more challenging, but we seemed to muddle through. As you know, the cap was due to the Comptroller's Office on Friday, March 1st, which we sent it. So I want to just give you, I try to do a comparison, show you where we were last year versus where we are this year, to try to give you an idea of how we calculated it. So if you want to start on the top line, the prior year tax levy, underneath I put it was the budget and the bus proposition. So you remember that the levy was raised to include the total budget and the total bus proposition. So both of those, the Prop 1 and Prop 2 are in both of those numbers on the top. You also notice that this year we did get an inflation, a tax-based growth factor that's given by the New York State Tax and Finance Department, so it's not something that we can look up or decide. It's kind of allocated to us. So luckily we did get a small increase. As you saw last year, we were flat when we did the first year of the cap. Part of the cap calculation is adding and subtracting the pilots. Pilot, again, is payment in lieu of taxes. It's money that we get separate from the tax roll when we send tax bills out. It's agreements with certain taxpayers in the municipality to pay a reduced amount, and the city collects and sends it over to us. So the Comptroller's Office feels that the prior year, and then you'll see on the bottom what we anticipate as current year, pilot is an add and subtract into the calculation. Prior year exemptions, you'll notice in 1213 that related to capital exclusion. In the first year, that was the only thing that we had. And you'll also notice in the 1314, the prior year exemptions is the capital exclusion. That's at the bottom of the first column, the 81,000. And it's also the bus proposition that we had. And the bus proposition was 398,000. So basically, we're trying to come up with what the budget can increase, so we need to take out the portion that relates to the bus proposition to get a true calculation. The allowable growth factor, again, 2% is a given. It's probably going to remain that way for the rest of the cap. Pilots coming in, again, is an estimate, and we did not anticipate any new ones. We called the city of Beacon and the 2 towns that we cover, and we are not anticipating anything different. The major difference that I want to show you is in the next section, the ERS-TRS. Last year, we were allowed to take an exclusion of $30,820. That was for employees' retirement system, And basically, the rates are kind of off the charts in some of those areas. So last year, they allowed you to take an exclusion for a rate that went higher than 2%. So they allowed it to grow 2% because that matches what the cap calculation is. So last year, employees' retirement, our calculation of $30,820, the more important number is probably in this year's number. So that's for teachers' retirement system. So the anticipated rate for teachers' retirement is 16.25% for 13-14. And last year in 12-13, it was 11.84%. So that's a significant increase, a 4.41% increase. So they allow you, they take off 2%, so they allow you to exclude 2.41%. So basically, in a more simplistic term, they're realizing that that area of employees' retirement, teachers' retirement, would not fit into the cap, so they're allowing you the exclusion on that portion to kind of offset it to increase the budget. Capital exclusion, again, is the difference between our principal and interest payments less our building aid. You remember that we have a deficit financing bond that we have a few more years for. And last year, the Controller's Office deemed that not includable in that exclusion. So you have to take that out. It's not eligible for building aid. So the $91,000 is the difference between our principal and interest and our anticipated building aid. I will throw into that calculation that you'll hear some things and maybe part of the later on in the budget process about an assumed interest rate. The state education department went around and said, well, everybody's refunding their bonds, and we're paying some of your old bonds. We're paying you building aid at a much higher percentage. So they went back on some of our bonds. They're going to actually reduce the amount, the assumed interest rate that we're paying. So I took that into consideration as well when I was coming up with the exclusion. So basically, the bottom line, the maximum levy increase. As you saw last year, as you remember last year, it was 2.07%, and this year for the budget, it's 3.08%. And again, remember that's mainly there on the exclusion part is the teacher's retirement exclusion that allowed that to go up. So for right now, when we sent this off to the Controller's Office, we're going with the 3.08% as a levy increase under the tax cap.
Anne-Marie, I know you spent a lot of time on this, and we appreciate your efforts because it's just like I hear from Dr. Walkley, everything is new this year, so there's a lot of new terms, vocabulary, and rules and regulations, so thanks for your good work.
Thank you.
So I guess when the community asks, we thought it was a 2% tax cap, and it's actually 3.08. The bottom line reason is that the teacher retirement
Yes.
is the cause of that.
Right.
Okay. I know that some of our neighboring districts are approaching 4% or higher.
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see how that's received.
Sure, that goes on. Does the board have any questions?
I guess there's not much we could do with it other than adjust to it, right?
Right, that's correct.
Actually, I do have one question, sorry. Just when you see it, it is, such a significant or noticeable jump in the ERS to TRS. Is it that we're not getting as much state aid, or just that we're allowed to exclude more?
Right. Well, in the budget, so you're trying to work within the framework of a cap. So the teacher's retirement, when we have to figure out how much to budget for the teacher's retirement area, we have to take 16.25% of the salaries of the employees that fall under teacher's retirement and budget for that. And that from, if you compare last year to this year, it went up more than 2%. It went up 4%. So the way the Controller's Office looks at that is to say, okay, well, 2% is okay, but anything above that, anything that increases in that area more than 2%, you can exclude. So that number is calculated based on estimated salaries times 2.4%. So it does give you, it's trying to help you fit within the cap without basically, it's is trying to make you fit within the cap, knowing that you have a 16% expenditure that you have to budget for. It's hard to compare and contrast the two numbers because last year it was ERS that went up more than 2%, and we did not have a TRS exclusion. This year, ERS did not go up more than 2% because they had their big increase last year. This year, it's teachers' retirement's turn to go up more. So that's why the numbers are the way they are. But that is one of the allowable exclusions besides capital that we're allowed to add back to the budget.
Thank you, madam. Great
Welcome.
job. Appreciate it.
May I have a motion for executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of particular individual for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining with the CSEA, and to review matters leading to the employment of a particular individual, and the board will return as soon as possible.
Second. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The board will return as quickly as possible.